Hey guys, Sunblaze here. Welcome to week number 6 of the college football Dynaminis. We've got some very exciting games this week. Let's take a look at our top 10 real quick before we get into our matches our team's playing today. Rutgers still holding on to first after going 2 and 0 last week. They managed to keep their points per game at a decent enough level to stay number one, even though charges from Villanova and BYU tracked them down a little bit. Villanova second, BYU third. Montana State still hanging on to fourth. We'll see them play today. And Oregon State in fifth, along with Arkansas, Texas A&M, Texas Tech, UAB, and Toledo, who rounds out the top 10. And here are our teams playing today. Tons of ranked teams. I think this is the most ranked teams we've ever had in a week. And we also have a couple of very, very big matches, um, including the Mid-Atlantic match between Penn State and Pitt that could go a long way in deciding the champion. Penn State currently the only undefeated team that has played a game in the Mid-Atlantic, so if Pitt were able to get that win, that would be insane. As well as a match between Texas and Houston. This is Texas's fourth straight game, and they've got one after this against Texas A&M in next week. But this week they're playing Houston, who are currently ranked. It will be their toughest opponent, and will they be able to survive after last week losing to Texas Southern? Um, we've also got a match for the Northwest, current number one seed Oregon State, taking on debutants Washington, who are a very strong team historically. And then of course the biggest match of all, the debut in the college football Dynaminis of the current FBS national champions, the Indiana Hoosiers, and it will be against the team favored to finish second, Notre Dame. The Fighting Irish have not had a great season thus far, but a win against the current real life national champions could put them on the road to success there. But with enough being said there, let's get right into week number 6 of the college football Dynaminis. And in our first game of the week, it is Texas Tech taking on UTEP in the North Texas Conference. Texas Tech 2-0 already. This will be their third game of the season. This is UTEP's debut, but it looks to be, according to the charts, another probable win for Texas Tech. The biggest concern being, can they keep their points per game up? They are the eighth ranked country. Oh my goodness, eighth ranked team in the country, and currently first place in the Texas North Conference at 44 points per game. Can they keep that going here against the UTEP Miners? Yes, they can. It is a pretty low score, though, for them, 24-10. They will get the win and move to 3-0, maintaining their first place ranking in the Texas North, as that is by total points and not by points per game. However, their points per game will be seriously hurt here. It was a 96% chance to win for Texas Tech. So an expected win, although not probably the score line that they were looking for. I'm not quite sure what that'll knock their points per game down to. That will be, it's around 103, so down to about 30, 34, 35 points per game, which is pretty good. That will probably keep them in the rankings if things stand, but they will drop far out of the top 10. So it is fine for now. The national rankings don't really matter much. It's mostly for teams that it's mostly to keep the normality of the national rankings as if you're someone who normally watches college football. But they're purely ranked by by win ratio and then by points per game. So Texas Tech 100% win ratio, and now down to around 34.3 points per game. So they will drop down just a little bit. We will see them again play against North Texas in week number 11. And as for UTEP, we'll see them again in next week in week number 7 when they take on FCS team Tarleton State. So look for them to bounce back in that one. And moving on to the Texas South Conference, Texas Longhorns. I did try my best to shuffle up the order of matchups, but the Texas Longhorns managed to get 5 games in a row here, which is just kind of crazy. They're 2-1 through those games. They had a shock loss last week to Texas Southern, the one FCS team in the conference. And the matchups are only getting harder from here. 2 matches left to go in that gauntlet for them against Houston and against Texas A&M, who are currently second and first, respectively, in the Texas South Conference. Texas sitting at fourth on 2-1. They could improve their record here to 3-1 over Houston, and would also, in the process, jump above Houston in the rankings. Or will Houston, the Cougars, be able to go 2-0 with a win here over the Texas Longhorns? What will it be? And oh my goodness, wow, no mercy from Manning-led Texas Longhorns, 48-9. And man, I thought Houston would do a little bit better than that. 80% chance to win for the Longhorns, proving who they are. They are not to be underestimated, even though they had a little bit of a slip up last week. They are showing that they are back and ready to go with, ready to get back on with the year. They'll jump up to 3-1, and that will vastly help their points per game. Although they're not going to get into the national rankings with a loss for now. We'll see once things sort of shake out and we have less undefeated teams where they'll end up. But that is definitely a good scoreline for them. That'll bump them up to, yes, third in the conference as Houston dropped down to fourth. See Texas again next week, of course, as they finish their gauntlet against Texas A&M, a real juggernaut match. The teams favored to finish second and first in that conference. And Houston will play the week after that in week number 8 when they take on Rice. And now on to the third conference, the Midwest Conference, where the Arkansas Razorbacks have a tight grip on things. They're 2-0 at the top of the Midwest Conference and currently sitting in the top 10 of our national rankings. But we're not going to see them today. It's in fact their state, the other state school, Arkansas State, and they are going up against Missouri in both teams' first game of the season. So one of these teams getting off to a 1-0 start here, and the other falling to 0-1. Let's find out which of the teams it will be, and it will be the Missouri Tigers taking the win by a score. It's 30-24, 94% chance to win, but Arkansas State made it look close. Yeah, and Missouri will jump up to actually second in the conference. Oklahoma were second, but only scored 27 points in their first game. So the 30 points from Missouri here, enough to take them up to second. As for Arkansas State, they're going to drop to 8 out of 9, which is unfortunate for them, but just the first game of the season, they'll be back. Unfortunately, their next game will be in week 9 against the current conference leaders, Arkansas. But then they'll get, after that, weeks 12, 13, and 14, it will be a run against some other teams. Oklahoma State, Tulsa, and Kansas State. So maybe they'll get a win in there. So still hope to be had for the Red Wolves of Arkansas State. And as for Missouri, they'll play again in week number 10 against Kansas State. And moving on, it's the Louisiana Conference. 2 teams who have already played going at it this week. It's 1-0 Tulane sitting at second in the conference, taking on the team in last, Louisiana. The Raging Cajuns. Tulane, I mean, it's the Louisiana Conference is already pretty set. The fight, I think, is for third and fourth, those spots for the national championship bracket. Louisiana State pretty much guaranteed to get first, and Tulane pretty much guaranteed to get second. Tulane were in the national championship bracket in real life, so there is a possibility that Tulane takes first here above LSU, but they can do that and start to head towards that end goal by getting wins against their other conference opponents. They're already 1-0 after getting a win against Louisiana Tech in week number 2, and today they're playing another 0-1 team in the Raging Cajuns of Louisiana. Or will it be the state school getting the upset? Oh my goodness, no, it will not. The Green Wave absolutely overwhelm the Raging Cajuns, a 93% chance to win. And they made it look the part, and that will see them into first in the conference, Tulane, and that will greatly help their points per game as well. Even could see them into the national rankings here. They're up to 36 points per game with that one. So definitely, if things sort of stay stable, we don't get too many teams jumping up into the national rankings, that could see them secure a spot there. And as for Louisiana, they dropped to 0-2. It's a little bit better performance than they had in their first game, but still not much. They're only on 15 points per game. Remember, you need 24 at least to make it into the wild card bracket of the Dynamini National Championship. They'll get another opportunity in week number 11, taking on Nichols State, who are the only team in the Louisiana Conference who have yet to play a game. As for Tulane, we'll see them next week when they take on another sort of just like filler team in the Louisiana Conference, if I'm being honest, and that one is Southern. And we move on to the Gulf Conference, where we've got yet another exciting debutante, and this time it's the Auburn Tigers. They are taking on 0-1 Troy this week. Some shakeups in the Gulf Conference recently. South Alabama went on a run to start the season. They were 3-0 until they lost to the Crimson Tide of the University of Alabama. And then UAB last week getting the win over Jackson State to take first in the Gulf Conference. And now Auburn getting the opportunity to do the same. They're going to need more than 44 points to do so, but that's definitely not out of the realm of possibility for Auburn. And let's take a look here now. Auburn against Troy, and it's not 44 points, but it is a very secure win for the Auburn Tigers. A 97% chance to win for War Eagle. If you know, you know. And they will get a big win here. 35-7. Troy fall to 0-2, not looking good for them to start the season after losing to South Alabama in week number 3. They'll get another opportunity again next week against Mississippi State, but if that goes wrong, could already be all gone for Troy, and we've just barely started the year. So, as for Auburn, they'll play again in week number 10 against very tough opponents in Ole Miss, so that one will be exciting. Make sure to come back for that. Subscribe, put your notifications on. You'll get to know when I post again. Oh my goodness, sometimes English is not Englishing, but yeah, I'm trying to post the college football every like 4 days or so. I have been, a couple days ago, I I did my model debut because my webcam came in. So this is the second of 2 college football videos in a row. But we will be back to our regularly scheduled programming after that. This is coming out on the day it should have. But yeah, Auburn get the win here, and we move on. On to the Mountain Conference, where BYU got a dominant win last week against the Air Force Academy, and they are looking to back that up this week against debutantes New Mexico. They currently sit first in the Mountain Conference by a lot, as well as third in the nation, so looking very good for BYU to start the season. Can they back that up with a big win here Yes, they can. It is pretty close. Not quite as dominant. Definitely not quite as my goodness. Definitely not as dominant as their win last week, but it is a win nonetheless, and that will move them to 2-0, which keeps them way far and away atop the Mountain Conference. Will definitely knock their points per game a little bit, but 89 points in 2 games, still a very good stretch, and still actually a very good points per game that could actually, I believe, keep them in the top 10. That is like 44 and a half points per game. So very good performance from them here. As for New Mexico, they'll start the season off at 0-1, but 24 is of course the bar if they and that they need to hit if they want to uh, make it to the wild card. So not a horrible loss for them, although it will drop them to 10th in the Mountain Conference to start the season off. There's 2 teams left to debut in the Mountain Conference: Arizona and Arizona State. Um, and BYU. Wow, BYU is gonna be not playing for a little while. Their next game is in week 21 against Northern Arizona. But as for New Mexico, we'll see them again take on Air Force, who are looking to bounce back after getting demolished by BYU. So I guess both teams looking to bounce back after BYU playing against each other in week number 9. And moving on to the Pacific Conference, San Jose State currently in the middle of their 3-game run here. They lost last week to Stanford. Can they bounce back here against another debut team in Fresno State? I'm not really sure which one is better. Both are, I believe, joining the new Pac-12, unless I am mistaken. So we will see if San Jose can bounce back or if Fresno will be getting off to a 1-0 start, and it will be the Spartans of San Jose State getting the win 41-29 with just a 36% chance to win. So very good win there for San Jose State, and a large sum of points there as well that will help them in their quest to, you know, stay up in the rankings and possibly get into that top 4 to make the national championship. Either way, it's a good win. 41 points is a good amount, so they'll move up to 1-1. 55 points in those 2 games, so pretty good for them. That will see them up into 4th in the conference. As for Fresno State, they'll start 0-1, but it's not a terrible performance either with 29 points. That will bump them down to 8th in the conference, but all is not lost as, yeah, as you can see, they are above that 24 points per game line that they need to get into the wild card. Of course, everything is still early, so that could always be Fresno State's only loss of the season. Um, we shall see. It's plenty of season left. San Jose State will play one more time next week, and it will be against UCLA, which will be the Bruins' debut in the college football Dynaminis. As for Fresno State, we'll have to wait till week 11 when they take on the Golden Bears of Cal. Next, we have the Northwest Conference, where a big game is going on here. Oregon State, the Beavers are 1-0, but they're going up against the last team still to play in the Northwest, and it's the Washington Huskies. University of Washington, historically a very good team. They've made the college football playoff in the modern format multiple times, and or I guess the playoff format. They made the semifinals or whatever when it was only 4 teams. I don't know if they've made it when there was 12 teams, but that's only been around for a couple of years anyway. Anyway, Washington, very good team. Oregon State, historically not that great, but they did get a big win a couple weeks ago against Idaho State, and that is why they are sitting first. But can Washington take that all away from them here in week number, goodness, I forget what week it is. Week number 6. I am what is going on with me today? And it will be the Washington Huskies getting the win. 28-14. Oregon State were first, but they fall flat here. And the Huskies of Washington, a 91% chance to win that. There's been some dominant stat lines here. So Washington will start off their season 1-0. The last of the teams still to play in the Northwest Conference, up to 28 points, which will only see them into fourth, as there are three teams above them that scored more points in their debut game. Sorry, three. I forgot about Oregon State. Three teams, two teams above them. They will jump up to third. My brain is like slow today. I need more caffeine. Somebody remind me to go get more caffeine. Um, Oregon State is not a huge loss for them. They'll drop to 1-1, but that will only drop them to fourth, as they are the top 1-1 team by points scored. They've scored 63 points over those two games, so this one wasn't a terrible, a terrible loss for them. And Oregon will reclaim first place in the Northwest Conference, to the relief of Duck fans. 42 points scored in their first game. Washington State are second on 31, and now the Huskies 28 points here, and in third. We'll see Oregon State again next week when they take on Idaho, so looking to bounce back with another big win there. And Washington will play against Idaho State in Week 12. And now we head to the North Conference, where Montana State, despite being the number 4 team in the country, are sitting second in the conference. South Dakota State are 2-0 and have more points scored total than Montana State, although it was a crazy win for Montana State, 52 points in just one game. It was against Wyoming, to be fair, but they've got tougher opponents here in Wisconsin this week, and this game could really decide who will take dominance in this conference between the FBS and FCS teams. Montana State are the current reigning FCS national champions. And, Wisconsin are just a mid-table, I would say, mid-range FBS team. But they are dominant in their own right. They're 1-1 so far this season. They got shut out by South Dakota State in week number 2, but immediately bounced back against Wyoming. So this is definitely putting the Badgers to the test here. If Montana State win, they'll definitely go first in the North Conference, or will Wisconsin move up to 2-1? And wow, that will probably, it'll be close, but that could see Montana State into the number 1 spot in the country, 62-18 over Wisconsin, who did not stand a chance. Okay, 76% chance to win for Montana State. 23% chance to win for Wisconsin. That seems like a big score for just a 76% chance to win, but they've done it. And they're 2-0, and they've scored 114 points in those two games. They will be behind Rutgers still, but that will move them up to second, I believe, in the country, at least among the 2-0 teams. It's definitely take first in the North Conference by a long shot. Montana State back to reclaim their crown after they won the North Conference and the national championship in my initial simulation of the Dynaminis season 0, basically. Here in season 1, can they win it officially? We shall see. And Wisconsin, they'll drop to 1-2, but they won't drop any positions in the North Conference, as all the teams below them either haven't played yet or haven't gotten a win at all. So just getting a win puts Wisconsin above the debutants, the teams who have yet to play. And so they will stay in fourth, although over those 3 games, they are only averaging around 13, maybe 16 points per game still. So below that wild card cut line as it stands. But they've played 2 of the tougher. They've played the 1 and 2 seeds currently in the North Conference. So maybe they'll be able to bounce back against some of these other teams in the North Conference. They'll play North Dakota State in week 9. That one will definitely be a tough one. And as for Montana State, they play the current number 2 seed, South Dakota State, in week number 10. So come back around for that one. And we're now past the halfway point in this video, but this next game is definitely no less exciting. We're going from the FCS champions to the FBS champions in real life. Indiana play this week their debut in the college football at Dynaminis season number 1, and it will be against Notre Dame, who are currently, I mean, preseason, sorry, favored to finish second, but not looking great currently. They're 1-2. They got a win against Northern Ireland, but their losses were to Nebraska and Illinois. So it could be looking grim a bit for Notre Dame here as they face the current FBS national champions, or it could be a great opportunity to bounce back and prove that they are one of the teams to watch out for in the Central Conference. Let's find out. Indiana Hoosiers against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and the Hoosiers win it. Notre Dame kept it close a little bit, but um, no, Indiana do get the win, a 90% chance to win. So, wow, Notre Dame keeping it close, but not a whole lot of chance for them. Of course, Indiana 16-0 in the regular season of, 16-0 over all their games in real life. So, just a crazy stat line. Very rarely do you get an undefeated team in college football. Could they do that in the college football Dynaminis? They're going to start off here at 1-0. That won't see them up to first, but it will see them up to second in the Central Conference. Iowa State are 2-0 and currently at 67 points through those two games. But Indiana will jump up above Nebraska, who only scored 27 in their first game. Notre Dame fall to fifth. They're still above all the teams who have yet to play, but they are now 1-3, so not looking great at all. They're also way below that 24 points per game needed to make the wild card. So, I mean, they have played a decent amount of tough opponents, but they have still got some tough ones to go. As next time we'll see them, it will be against Iowa State in Week 17. Iowa State Cyclones currently leading the Central Conference. As for Indiana, they're gonna, after not playing until week number 6, we're gonna have to wait to see them again all the way until week number 21 when they play Northern Illinois. So we're gonna see a lot more of Indiana towards the end of the season. But as for right now, they're 1-0. 30-21 is the score line today. They take the win, and we move on to our second of two 11-team conferences, the Lakes Conference. Michigan currently sitting in second behind Toledo. Could a win here, a win here will see them almost definitely into first place in the Lakes Conference. They are playing against 0-1 Ohio, who took a tough loss to the current conference leaders Toledo in week number 2. So they're looking to bounce back, although it will be tough against the Michigan Wolverines, who currently sits second, 38 points over Akron last week, and they will get an even more dominant win here today, 48 points over Ohio's 17, which will for sure see them into first place in the Lakes Conference, and that could even see them jump up quite a bit in the national rankings as well, as that helps their points per game greatly. It jumps up to 43 points per game, which will actually see them pretty near Toledo, actually, in the national rankings. As for Ohio, they're 0-2, sitting at 15 points per game. Not looking great so far. They're going to keep their 10th place position in the Lakes Conference, so not looking super great for them, but they have played, well, I mean, Toledo, but they got Michigan out of the way now. Maybe they'll be able to bounce back against some of the other smaller teams in the Lakes Conference. We will see them again in week number 15 against fellow winless team Akron. So possibilities for them there. As for Michigan, it'll be the battle for Michigan in week number 14. Michigan against Michigan State, the big rivalry game in the Lakes Conference, basically. Well, other than the game, of course, Michigan against Ohio State. So come back for that one. In week number 14, as for this week, it's Michigan taking the win. The Wolverines 48 to the Bobcats 17. And now on to the Middle East Conference, where we're seeing the debut of the Vanderbilt Commodores. They were a very surprising but really good team in the FBS in real life this year. They're playing against 1-0 Memphis, who currently lead the Middle East Conference, one of just two undefeated teams there. And also sitting in the national rankings at 24th in the nation. Will Vanderbilt be able to get off to a 1-0 start, or will it be Memphis securing their position at the top of the Middle East? And it will be the Commodores by 30, 45-15. And Vanderbilt will storm into first in the Middle East and also into the national rankings. 45 points, very good for their first game. And against Memphis as well, who managed to beat Western Kentucky. So a long train of thought there. But very, very good for Vanderbilt, and it is unfortunate for Memphis, who now at 1-1 are going to drop all the way to fifth in the Middle East, just above all the two teams yet to play. And it is some teams who have yet to play. Louisville and Tennessee, two of the better teams in the Middle East. So Memphis now on the outside looking in, sitting at 23.5 points per game, so just barely behind that line. They'll get another opportunity to play in week number 15 against the Wildcats of Kentucky. So hope for them to bounce back there. Kentucky already upset once this year by Western Kentucky, who Memphis beat. So maybe a little bit of hope there for Memphis. As for Vanderbilt, we'll see them again next week when they take on Kentucky as well. And now it's the Virginia Conference, where we've got a less than exciting match between the two teams from West Virginia. It's the University of West Virginia taking on Marshall. Both teams currently bottom of the Virginia Conference at 0-2. They've both taken some pretty tough losses to some of the better teams in the Virginia Conference. But now they're playing here today, and one of them will walk away with a win, and the other one will drop to 0-3 with little hope of climbing out of that hole. So let's find out which team could possibly save themselves here and which team could already be on the road to, next, like, hoping for next year, like a team that is not the already elimination from the college football playoff. Who will it be? West Virginia, the Mountaineers, get the win over their state rivals. 31-15 is the win for West Virginia, and they'll jump up. They'll be the ones jumping up to 1-2. They've played a couple of tough opponents, West Virginia. They lost to William and Mary, who are surprisingly good this year. And they also lost to Virginia, who were favored to get the win. Those two teams currently second and third in the conference. So plenty of smaller teams for West Virginia to be able to have hope against. But they're currently averaging 22 points per game. As for Marshall, the situation is even more bleak. Just 49 points over 3 games and 0-3 through those 3 games. So not looking great for them as they sit in 8th place, bottom of the Virginia Conference. They'll get a chance to play. They'll play a couple games starting week 8, week 9. Virginia Tech and Liberty. I don't know how much hope they can expect to have there. And West Virginia will play against Liberty in week number 7 with a chance to get back to 500 overall. 2-2 there, but currently they sit 4th with 3 teams still to play. 1-2 are the Mountaineers with a 31-15 win in week number 6. And now it's the New England Conference, 2 Massachusetts teams, Boston College, who have yet to play a game so far this season, and UMass, who are basically the worst team in the Dynaminis so far. They're 0-2, just 9 points scored over those 2 games. And Boston College are a a decent. I was gonna say good, but I'll say a decent FBS team here in the New England Conference. So UMass looking for their first win, even like first decent amount of points. I don't think they've scored a touchdown. They scored 6 points in one game, which I guess could be a touchdown for the missed extra point, but I don't know in that situation. Or so will UMass get the upset and get their first win of the season, or will it be Boston College climbing to 1-0 and effectively sinking their their intrastate opponents? It will be the Eagles. The computer is saying it was overtime, so UMass put up a little bit of a fight and a decent amount of points here, 31. But it is Boston College getting the win, 38-31. A 97% chance to win for BC. So actually a really good performance from UMass. Just unfortunate that they couldn't take it all the way. Maybe I'm rooting for them a little bit that they're, uh, you know, proven themselves to be one of the worst teams in the Dynaminis. That will move actually Boston College up to second with 38 points in this game, behind Rutgers, of course, who have scored 115 points over their first two wins. Um, their first two wins of the season. And that could as well see them into the national rankings. Boston College, a very good performance here. Meanwhile, for UMass, it was a fine performance. It will help their points per game a lot, but still 0-3. They are going to jump above Buffalo temporarily, as they've now scored 40 points in those 3 games. Buffalo are 0-2 on just 20 points. But not looking great for them. They'll play against the Army Academy in Week 8, UMass. And as for Boston College, they've got quite a few games here in the coming weeks, starting with next week against Syracuse. And then they'll play New Hampshire in Week 9. So be sure to come back for that. Will they be able to hold on to their undefeated record and possibly look for that first place spot ahead of Rutgers? They need some crazy points to do so, but anything's possible in the college football Dynaminis. So stay tuned for that. And now moving on to the Mid-Atlantic Conference. This game could go a long way in deciding the champion of this conference. Penn State are the only undefeated, the one of 2 undefeated teams. Villanova did win last week, but statistically not likely that it stays that way. Penn State, though, are 1-0 after getting their win against Delaware in week number 1. This is their second game of the season against Pitt, who are 1-1 after a shock loss to Delaware in week number 4. So if Penn State were to drop points here, maybe that could even see Villanova, who are currently 1-0. Like if they manage to go on a run, see them be able to win the Mid-Atlantic Conference as a massive upset. But as of now, this could go a long way in deciding the champion of the Mid-Atlantic, especially if Pitt were to get an upset over Penn State. Here it is Penn State against Pitt, the Nittany Lions against the Panthers. And it will be the Pitt Panthers getting the win over Penn State, securing that Villanova is the only undefeated team in the Mid-Atlantic. That will have Pitt jump up to second on 2-1. Of course, 3 teams still to play in the Mid-Atlantic. So any one of those teams could go 1-0 in their first week. But as of right now, Villanova are the only 1-0 team in the Mid-Atlantic. Penn State fall to 1-1, and that will see them drop down to third, effectively swapping places with Pitt, and also knocking them out of the national rankings. I believe they were ranked around 15th. I can't see the graphics you guys are seeing, by the way. That's all done post in editing, I guess. Or, yeah, in post. But, yeah, they are 15th. I am looking at my chart now. Yeah, Pitt, a very good win for them, and that does shake up things. The three teams favored to finish 1, 2, 3, Penn State, Pitt, and Maryland, all with one loss to their name now. So, yeah, we shall see where that leads them in Atlantic. Can Villanova possibly get the shock upset of the entire conference? They're in the lead right now, 1-0. Penn State is in the middle of a gauntlet here. Or sorry, that was their first week of their gauntlet. They are playing 4 games in the next few weeks. So after this one, they've got Temple next week, then Ball State in week 8, and Villanova in week 9. As for Pitt, they'll play Ball State as well, and that will be in week number 11. And now our third to last conference, the North Carolina Conference, where Duke are 1-0. They're sitting third in the North Carolina Conference after getting a win last week over FCS team NCA&T. They're playing much tougher competition today in Wake Forest, who are in fourth on 1-1. They had an unfortunate loss to East Carolina, current conference leaders, in week 1, but immediately bounced back with a shutout win against Charlotte in week 2. So can Wake Forest keep that momentum going here against Duke, or will Duke possibly even jump up to first in the North Carolina Conference with a win, going 2-0? What will it be? Blue Devils against the Demon Deacons. And it will be a win for Wake Forest, moving up to 2-1 as Duke take their first loss of the Dynaminis season, 38-22 for Wake Forest. And they complete the bounce back up into positive territory. 95 points through those 3 games, so decent amount of points per game. What is that, round 30, 31 and 31.7? As for Duke, they dropped to 1-1 and dropped to 4th. But they are currently on exactly 24 points per game. And also they're in 4th in the North Carolina Conference, so above that cut line for the playoffs anyway. We shall see if they're able to bounce back. They're playing the current conference leaders, East Carolina, in week number 9. As for Wake Forest, they'll play again next week, taking on Appalachian State and looking to move 3-1. And now the Southeast Conference, where we have the debut of Georgia Tech, a team just barely missing the playoffs in real life, but a very good squad. Georgia Tech, it's their first game of the Dynaminis season. Then they're taking on Georgia State, who are currently 1-1. Georgia State lost to the Georgia Bulldogs in week 1 after getting, and then followed that up by getting a win against Kennesaw State in week 3. Can they keep that going, or will they drop to 1-2 against a very good side here in Georgia Tech? And how will the Hornets, is it the Yellow Jackets? Hornets? I don't remember. How will they start their season off? And it will be with a win. 51-14. Left no doubt there, Georgia Tech. 82% chance to win. And they get it big time, which I believe will see them to first in the Southeast Conference. South Carolina are 2-0, but have scored just 40 points in those 2 games. So Georgia Tech will jump up to first in the Southeast Conference and also take a good position here in the national rankings after scoring 51 points in this game, their first game of the season. And now sitting at 1-0, very good start for them. Georgia State only dropping 1 position down to 1-2. Only 1 team left to play in the Southeast Conference. It is Georgia Southern. So Georgia State fortunate that they've got a win in the bag, although they are currently sitting below that 24 points per game line. Here, see Georgia Tech again after a while in week 18, taking on Coastal Carolina, who currently sit at 0-2 with just 9 points scored in those 2 games. Not looking great for Coastal Carolina. And as for Georgia State, they won't play for a while as well. It will be in week 16 against currently undefeated team South Carolina. And lastly, we're on to the Florida Conference, where it's a debut of another very historically strong school, the Florida Gators, and they take on Florida International FIU this week. FIU currently sitting bottom of the Florida Conference in ninth at 0-1. Could they get a possible bounce back here against the Gators? There are just three teams, including the Gators, yet to play in the Florida Conference, and I think, in my opinion, they are the three strongest teams in the Florida Conference. That being Florida State, and the University of Miami, who came runner-up in the FBS this season. Um, I seriously doubt that FIU can get a win, but that would be a crazy upset. We haven't really had a huge upset yet this week, I don't believe, unless I'm just completely forgetting something, which is always possible. Um, but yeah, we have seen a pretty crazy upset so far in every week, but can FIU be that team this week against Florida, or will the Gators get off to a very good 1-0 start here? And it will be the latter, the Gators, getting the win by a comfortable margin, 43 to 10, which will also see them into the national rankings. The bar for points per game to be able to get into the top 25 is just getting higher and higher here. So 43 points here for Florida. Definitely good enough, though. Very good for them, and that will bump them up to second in the Florida Conference, just ahead of Central Florida, who are also 1-0, but behind USF South Florida, who are 2-0 on 68 points through those two games. As for FIU, they drop to 0-2, and that will keep them in ninth, in last in the Florida Conference. Just 15 points per game in those two games. Can they possibly bounce back another week, though? They are playing the University of Miami, so not looking great for them. That will be in week number 11, and then in week number 14, they play against Jacksonville State. As for the Florida Gators, they'll play FAU, Florida Atlantic, in next week in week number 7. So come back around for that. So here is our top 25, starting with these bottom teams. All of these teams on 34 points per game, which is now the cutoff, which is just kind of crazy to say. They have to score 34 points per game and not lose to even be ranked in the top 25. It's UCF, USF, Hawaii, Michigan State, and Clemson at the bottom of the top 25. Then into the top 20, TCU in 16th on 37.5 points. Tulane getting another win this week. They're up to 36 points per game at 2-0. East Carolina is still there, as well as newcomers Auburn and Texas Tech dropping all the way from 8th. That's what one game of not, scoring 40-something points will do to you. They're down to just 34.3 points per game, which sees them at 20th now. And then we've got Toledo on 11th, Florida 12th, Oregon 13th, Georgia, and newcomers Boston College into 15th after defeating UMass, scoring 38 points in that win. And then into our top 10, Texas A&M are 6th, jumping up one spot after some of the other teams dropped points. Vanderbilt are 7th after absolutely destroying Memphis in their first game of the season. Then there's BYU, who won again this week, but dropped, they just didn't score 50-something points. So they're down to 8th on 44.5 points per game. Then it's UAB in 9th, and the Big Blue of Michigan, who jumped up after scoring more points than they did in their first game. They're 2-0 now on 43 points per game. And then in our top 5, Rutgers manages to hold on to that number 1 spot despite a charge from Montana State. It's 57.5 to 57 points per game there. Montana State are 2-0 now. Villanova into 3rd, 55 points there. Georgia Tech beating Georgia State by scoring 51 points, so they're up into 4th. And Arkansas still in the top 5 on 48 points with 2 wins there, so very good. for all those top 5 schools. And then here is our last little bit of information for today. Our team's playing in week number 7. Again, a bunch of ranked teams. We got Florida, Clemson, Boston College. And again, I'm not seeing the graphic. I'm just sort of scrolling through the games for next week. Vanderbilt is ranked. We got Toledo. A ton of ranked teams here, as well as a lot of teams looking to bounce back. Oregon State with an unfortunate loss to Washington this week. Could get a big win against Idaho. And then, of course, the wrap up of Texas's gauntlet of 5 straight games. Last game of that will be against ranked Texas A&M. And then plenty more debutants as well. Tarleton State, Purdue, Eastern Michigan, UCLA, just to name a few. So yeah, make sure to come back next week for all these exciting teams. If you don't see your team, make sure to comment down below if you haven't seen them yet this series, or if you haven't even seen the videos yet in this series. Make sure to go back and watch those. They hold some pretty crucial information for why the teams are where they are right now. And yeah, comment your favorite college football team down below, and I will tell you where they are in the standings, or if they've played. And if they haven't played, I'll tell you when they play or when you can expect to see them. Yeah, I'm uploading this series once every 4 days. This is the second straight because I had a little bit of a mix-up with my model debut. I had to post that instead of my college football video, so we're back on the right track. We've got a pretty exciting video for you in a couple days, and I'm not going to spoil it, but make sure to tune in on the 27th. So subscribe so you don't miss that. I promise it will be exciting, and got plenty of other things going and plenty of other things planned as well. And yeah, if you're watching this long, thank you. I appreciate everyone who watches my videos. I don't really get a whole lot of views, so it feels nice for each and every one of those views to see the number go up. So yeah, nothing really left to say here except for thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe and see ya.